Hello class 12 students. In the last class you all have studied Raoult's law for liquid solutions and we had ended with the term positive and negative deviations in the solution. Now these deviations from Raoult's law, they were dealing with change in vapor pressures. Now today we have to study how does this change in vapor pressure affect the boiling point of the mixture. So first of all, let us study what is boiling point. What is the meaning of boiling point? In the junior classes, you have studied that the temperature at which a substance boils is called its boiling point. Now today we will study the definition in terms of atmospheric pressure. So here what happens actually is whenever a liquid is boiled, its vapor pressure keeps on increasing from normal temperature till its boiling point, and the temperature at which vapor pressure of a liquid becomes equal to atmospheric pressure, this is called its boiling point. So we can say whenever there is atmospheric pressure, maybe standard condition it is 760 mm of Ag or 1 atm. So at boiling point, every liquid has its vapor pressure equal to 760 mm of Hg. This we can easily understand by the diagram here. So here you see in the central line, it is the atmospheric pressure which is 760 mm Hg. Now if we have a solution with a positive deviation, means its vapor pressure is greater than the expected one. Now it has to reach 760 to boil the solution. So with the positive deviation, the difference in vapor pressure becomes less, and since solution has to overcome lesser difference, it needs lesser energy, and that is why it will always have a lower boiling point than expected one. So this forms a minimum boiling azeotrope. Now next thing comes, what is an azeotrope? Actually, azeotrope is a solution in which there are two liquids mixed, but whenever we are heating the solution, one particular composition arises when liquid boils without any change in composition. Now this thing we need to understand, without any change in composition. Actually, when there are two liquids, one of them will have lower boiling point and other will have higher boiling point. So when we keep on increasing the temperature of mixture, the liquid which boils earlier, which has lower boiling point, that should get evaporated easily, and slowly its amount in the mixture gets reduced. Now as a result, other component which had higher boiling point, its percentage keeps on increasing. So during this process, at times what happens is there is a particular composition of two liquids which when reaches the atmospheric pressure, when its vapor pressure reaches atmospheric pressure, it starts boiling at that particular temperature, and now only one component does not evaporate, rather both the components start getting evaporated. So that is why whatever be the composition of the liquid, the same becomes composition of the vapors as well. So whole liquid mixture is boiling. Now component is not boiling, rather whole mixture starts boiling, and this mixture is called an azeotropic mixture. So this azeotropic mixture has a particular composition, which is important factor to understand. Now if a mixture boils at greater temperature than expected, it is called maximum boiling azeotrope. And if a mixture boils at a lower temperature than expected, it is called a minimum boiling azeotrope. So here, with the help of positive deviation, we have understood that if a liquid mixture is showing positive deviation, its vapor pressure is more, and since vapor pressure is more, it has to overcome lesser difference, needs lesser energy, so it has lower boiling point, and it is called minimum boiling azeotrope. So one statement comes, a solution which exhibits positive deviation, that forms minimum boiling azeotrope. On the same line, a solution which exhibits negative deviation. Now for negative deviation, as we can see, vapor pressure will be lesser than expected one, and since it is lesser, it has to overcome a larger difference. It means it needs more energy, and since energy required is more, it will have a higher boiling point than expected one. So this will be called a maximum boiling azeotrope. So now we have clear two statements. A solution exhibiting positive deviation forms minimum boiling azeotrope, and a solution exhibiting negative deviation exhibits maximum boiling azeotrope. So that was helpful in studying how a particular liquid solution can be uh, can be separated using fractional distillation. You keep on heating the liquid mixture and one component gets evaporated first, other one is left with the fraction. But if it forms azeotrope, in that case liquid cannot be separated, since the whole liquid starts getting evaporated at a same temperature. That is one significance. Now from your textbook you have to find 2 or 3 examples of minimum boiling and maximum boiling azeotropes and their applications. One application I am telling you here, in class 10 you have studied that HCl and water, it cannot be separated by fractional distillation because it was forming an azeotropic mixture. Now you have to find some more examples of azeotropes. Now next is how this vapor pressure is affected. Now when we have studied vapor pressure in the starting of the chapter, one thing was, more the amount of solute, more will be the effect on vapor pressure or lowering in vapor pressure. That was Raoult's first law. Now here one thing we need to understand, it is not the amount, rather it is number of solute particles which affects the vapor pressure. So this property we have to study now onwards. If you have dissolved 2 moles of 2 different substances, one of them may be glucose. Now you all know glucose is an organic compound, so it does not dissociate, it remains 1 mole as 1 mole only. But if you have dissolved 1 mole of potassium sulfate, it will get dissociated and as a result it will form 3 particles. So number of particles will remain 3 moles now. So it is not the number of moles, rather it is number of particles in the solution which affects the vapor pressure. So this is one property. All such properties which depend upon number of solute particles, they are called colligative property. Colligative means the collection of particles. So collection is number, not the moles. Just like if you have dissolved NaCl, it will be dissociated into Na and Cl. So each mole is giving you 2 particles. So whatever be the deviation, that will be according to twice the number of particles which you have dissolved in the solution. So this is one thing which we have to study, and now onwards we have to study all the colligative properties whatever is. So now on we have to study all the colligative properties which are affected by number of particles. So first one is relative lowering of vapor pressure, which you have studied in Raoult's law. Second one is osmotic pressure. Third is elevation in boiling point, and fourth one is depression in freezing point. Now when we study about osmotic pressure, you must have studied the term osmosis in the junior classes. Like one raisin is kept in water and it swells up. That water is going into the raisin and it is causing the swelling up of raisins. So actually what process is going on there? Just to understand that, what happens is, wall of the raisin works as semi-permeable membrane, and solution inside the raisin, it is of higher concentration, that is sugar solution, and outside you have kept pure water that is acting as a solvent, or we can say it is having lower concentration. So the wall which is acting as semi-permeable membrane, that allows only water molecules to enter the raisins, and as water molecules enter the cell wall, they start swelling up of raisins, and that was one example of osmosis. Now chemically, if we want to study in terms of pressure applied on the semi-permeable membrane, we can easily understand the pressure will be applied by pure solvent only, and that pure solvent is trying to enter the solution. So that is why semi-permeable membrane is facing some amount of pressure on it. Now as a result, water level on the higher concentration keeps on increasing. Now since the water level has increased, it will try to put one higher pressure on the sugar solution or the solution of higher concentration. Now since water level increases, this pressure is applied on the higher concentration. So this pressure is called osmotic pressure. Now if we want to stop the flow of solvent, what we have to do? We have to apply same amount of pressure on the higher concentration solution so that no more solvent can come into the higher concentration, and this should be equal to the pressure applied on the semi-permeable membrane. So now osmotic pressure may be defined in terms of pressure, physical pressure. So this is pressure applied on the concentrated solution. On concentrated solution, we have to make sure, if there are two solutions, one is not a pure solvent, two different concentrated solutions, then one with higher concentration, that will get the flow of solvent. So we have to apply pressure on the solution with higher concentration only. The pressure applied on the concentrated solution to prevent flow of solvent molecules. Now only solvent molecules flow, no solute molecules flow through semi-permeable membrane. That is another point to be remembered. Now towards it, solvent has to go towards the solution of higher concentration, that we know, and through semi-permeable membrane, that is another condition for the osmosis. If there is no semi-permeable membrane, the process will not be termed as osmosis. So this whole osmotic pressure is defined as pressure applied on the solution of higher concentration only, and it is required to stop the flow of solvent. Now a very similar experiment was carried out by two scientists, that was Berkeley and Hartley, and they have applied this they have used this apparatus to measure the osmotic pressure. Now here you can see what they have done is, in the middle tube there is pure solvent filled up, and on the tubes around it there are two, so there is one solution filled up, the same solution, and it is separated by a semi-permeable membrane here. So now what happens is, when solution is filled through this tube, solvent particles start flowing towards the solution, and as a result the water level in the capillary tube keeps on falling down since solvent is moving out to the solution. Now what we do is we apply a pressure on the solution through pressure gauge to maintain the level in the capillary tube steady. So when water level comes to the initial position, we can understand that now no solvent is flowing towards solution and now osmosis has stopped. At that point, whatever be the reading of pressure gauge, that is noted down, and this is the measure of osmotic pressure. So this is method of measuring osmotic pressure through Berkeley and now, since osmotic pressure is a colligative property, the law of gases can also be applied on it. That gases law you have studied, PV is equal to nRT. So here same way we can write pi V is equal to nRT, where pi is osmotic pressure, V is volume of the solution, N is number of moles of solute whatever has been dissolved, R is same as gas constant, so, but here we are studying the solution, so we call it solution constant, and T is absolute temperature. Absolute means you have to add 273, or the Kelvin temperature has to be used for this mathematical expression. So now since pi V is equal to nRT, so if you just change the position of V, pi becomes N by VRT, or pi is equal to CRT, where C is molar concentration according to the formula. So we can say the molar concentration of a solution is directly proportional to its osmotic pressure. Greater the concentration, more will be the osmotic pressure of the solution. Now here if you see the formula, C is equal to N by V, that is moles per liter. Molarity is the factor which decides the osmotic pressure. So in this formula there is no effect of nature of the solute or composition or the structure. Bonding does not affect the osmotic pressure. So it is only and only molar mass and the degree of dissociation, the particles which are getting dissociated or not getting dissociated, they are a measure of osmotic pressure. So this is one point to be understood, that osmotic pressure does not depend upon nature, composition and structure of the solute. Next we have to study how units of pi, V and R are substituted in the formula. Pi is osmotic pressure, so all the units of pressure may be applicable, but the thing is unit of volume and unit of gas constant or solution constant, they should always be in accordance with the unit of pressure. So generally if pi is taken in atmosphere ATM, V should be in liters, and in that case atmospheric liter both should be incorporated in the value of R also. So R becomes 0.0821 liter atmosphere per Kelvin per mole. Here T you can see it is taken in Kelvin. Absolute temperature also has to be used. Now if we are using SI units, pi is taken in Newton per meter square, then V has strictly to be the meter cube. So this has to be taken care of. When you are using atmosphere, volume should be in liters, and if it is Newton per meter square, volume should be in cubic meters. And in that case value of R also varies, it will be 8.314. So these are few things you need to take care of when you are solving the numerical problems. Now, one more question at times arises when we are determining osmotic pressure of a solution. Generally, there is no effect of temperature, it does not vary at all. And second thing, it is not affected by nature of solute or its physical state. So it is one of the most reliable methods to measure the molar mass. Now you can ask how molar mass can be measured using osmotic pressure. So what we do is we measure osmotic pressure using Berkeley and Hartley process. So we know value of pi. Volume of the solution we always measure, and how much mass we have dissolved in the solution, that we know. We just weigh the mass of solute, and that is giving us the value of W. Now N is number of moles, so that is simply the ratio of mass to molar mass. And temperature also we can always record at the time when experiment is being carried out. So now what happens is, osmotic pressure has been measured by manometer, Berkeley-Hartley process. Volume of solution we have measured. Mass of solute, that also we have measured. R is a constant, it can be applied, and temperature at the temperature when experiment is being carried out. So by knowing all these variables, only one variable remains, that is molar mass, and that can be calculated using this method. So that is why osmotic pressure is one of the most reliable methods to measure the molar mass of a given solute. So that is all for today, children. Now today what you have to do is go through the concept, learn the definition and the reasoning questions given in the assignment, and try to solve the numerical problems given in your books, those we have. You can always ask your doubts on the WhatsApp group. In the next class, we will be discussing some more of colligative properties. Till then, keep studying.